It's my honor to welcome you all.
Je to pre mňa podsta vás všetkých privítať.
We're here for this weekend. There'll be 5 presentations.
Sme tu tento týždeň a budeme mať 5 prezentácií tento víkend.
And it's my privilege to be the first speaker.
A ja mám tu možnosť byť prvým hovorcom.
Let's open with a word of prayer.
Začneme s modlitbou.
Dear Lord, we thank you.
Drahý Pane, ďakujeme Ti.
We want to ask and pray that you would guide and direct us.
Chceme sa modliť, aby si nás viedol a sprevádzal.
We realize the importance of opening and studying your word.
Uvedomujeme si dôležitosť otvárať a študovať Tvoje slovo.
And equally important,
A rovnako dôležité
for the privilege that you give to us
je tá možnosť, ktorú nám dávaš.
to question you,
A to je dávať otázky, spochybňovať,
to confront our fears and our
pýtať sa
concerns,
Teba a konfrontovať naše obavy a strachy.
and to speak openly and frankly to you about those
A s
concerns.
Tebou hovoriť otvorene a úprimne o týchto obavách.
As you have done in the past,
Tak ako si to spravil aj v minulosti,
we hope that you will hear us this weekend
dúfame, že nás budeš tento víkend počuť.
as we question you,
Keď budeme mať otázky
as we question ourselves,
a spochybníme Teba aj samých seba.
and we ask for grace.
Prosíme ťa o milosť.
In Jesus' name,
Mene
amen.
Ježiša, amen.
Okay, the last time we met, I think, was in Germany a couple of weeks ago.
Naposledy sme sa stretli, to som bol v Nemecku pred pár týždňami.
And at that camp meeting, in my presentations,
Na tom camp meetingu v mojich prezentáciách
we spoke about 2 subjects, I think.
hovorili sme o dvoch témach.
So for those who are not in person at this camp meeting,
Tí, ktorí tam neboli na tomto camp meetingu,
I have about 10 people with me.
uh,
And as I try to do, I'll communicate with them and together we'll
skúsim s
come up with the
nimi
answers.
komunikovať a prídeme k nejakým odpovediam. Mám ich tu nejakých 10?
And the chat for my presentations will be off, so I can't take any online comments.
Chat na prezentácie bude vypnutý, takže online komentáre neprimám.
And because of our location today, I don't have a whiteboard, so I hope you can have some memory hooks as we go through today's study.
Kvôli tomu, kde sa nachádzam, nemám tu žiadnu tabulu, takže dúfam, že si niečo zapamätáte z toho.
Okay, the 2 subjects we spoke about at my presentations in Germany at the beginning of the year, January.
Takže mali sme 2 prezentácie na začiatku roka v Nemecku.
Who's going to help me? Okay, so half the people didn't watch the studies. I don't
Polovica ľudí
think,
to ani
and
nepozerala,
they can't
myslím,
remember.
alebo si nepamätajú.
Sorry.
Deeper dive into organization.
Organization. So we spoke about organization,
Hovorili sme o organizácii
and then connected with the subject of organization, I brought up a related topic.
v spojitosti s témou organizácie som priniesol
What was that?
tému, ktorá sa k tomu vzťahovala.
Not that
Čo to
one.
bolo?
So someone gave an answer, but it wasn't the right one, so I wasn't going to have that translated. Okay, so the second point connected with organization,
Tá druhá pointa spojená s organizáciou,
Catherine said
Katrin povedala,
that connected to that subject was how we go about selecting leaders.
Tá otázka bola o tom, že ako
I think she
vyberáme
used
vodcov.
the word democracy.
Myslím, že použila slovo demokracia.
So this is a subject we've been speaking about, or I've been speaking about for quite some time now.
Toto je téma, o ktorej už nejaký čas rozprávam.
So in January, the framework was about the word democracy.
V januári ten rámec bol o
But in the
demokracii.
past, I've
ale v
used a
minulosti-
different context, but it was the same subject.
V minulosti som použil iný kontext, ale bola to tá istá téma.
Who wants to venture what the phrase or the word for those previous studies were?
Aké to bolo slovo v tých minulých štúdiách?
Speak a little bit louder. No. So Catherine said the personal is political. I said, no, it wasn't that point.
Osobné politické nie, to nebolo toto.
So I'll give you a hint.
Dám vám pomocku.
What kind of movement is this?
Aké hnutie je toto?
Someone else beside Catherine.
Niekto okrem Katrin.
Rachel, what kind of movement is this? So Rachel said this is a prophetic movement.
Rachel hovorí, že toto je prorocké hnutie.
Does that mean we believe in prophecy, or does that mean we're a creation of prophecy?
Znamená to, že veríme v proroctvo, alebo že tvoríme proroctvo?
Go ahead.
We believe in. What was your question?
So my question was, you said we're a movement of prophecy. I said, is that because we believe in prophecy, or we are a creation of prophecy?
Sme tvoritelia, alebo
Okay,
sme
so
utvorení proroctvom, alebo
Rachel
veríme
says
v
both.
proroctvo. Čo
We
to
are both a
znamená?
creation of prophecy and we believe in prophecy.
Rachel znamená obidve. Aj sme to, čo proroctvo utvorilo, aj ho tvoríme, aj v neho veríme.
Okay, so she speaks about Matthew 13, talking about both about the worker and the plants.
Tam máme Matúša 13, tam sa hovorí aj o
And possibly
pracovníkoch,
even the
aj o
field.
tých rastlinách. A ešte je tam aj pole.
Having said that, that wasn't the correct answer, but it was a good answer.
To bola dobrá odpoveď, ale nie je správna.
What kind of movement are we?
Aké sme my hnutie?
So we'll say this is meant to be a radical feminist organization.
Toto je mentálne radikálne feministické hnutie alebo organizácia.
Depending on the study, we wouldn't use the word organization.
Závisiac o aké štúdium ide, nepoužili by sme slovo organizácia.
We could make a strong argument to use what word?
Mohli by sme dať silný argument na to, že použijeme aké slovo?
A movement?
Hnutie.
Anything else?
Ešte niečo?
A church?
Cirkev.
A kingdom. We'll go with kingdom.
Kráľovstvo.
So I'm not going to critique any of those answers, movement, church or kingdom.
Nebudem kritizovať žiadne z týchto odpovedí, cirkev, hnutie,
But there
kráľovstvo.
would be some that would say that we're not a church,
Ale niektorí by povedali, že nie sme cirkev,
that we're a movement,
že sme hnutie.
because they see those as different entities.
Lebo to vidia ako niečo iné, ako dve rozdielne veci.
But if you're going to go to the book of Revelation,
Ak pôjdete do
you'd be forced to
knihy
use the word
Zjavenia,
or term church.
budete nutení používať tento pojem cirkev.
We're okay with that?
Áno?
Ray, if we were going to use church,
Ak by sme použili cirkev,
what church number would we be?
Aká cirkev by sme boli? Aké číslo?
Yeah, from the 7 churches, what number would we be?
Áno, z tých 7 cirkví, ktoré číslo by to bolo?
It depends. Probably 7.
So Ray said we'd be number 7.
Ray hovorí, že 7.
Third. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So Ray says he thinks we're number 7, but we want to be number 1.
On hovorí, že je to číslo 7, ale my chceme byť číslo 1.
My translator is smiling at your answer, but you can't hear that. Rachel, let's use Revelation 17 to give the answer.
Použijme zjavenie 17
You're
na
not
to, aby
sure?
sme dali
Just say.
odpoveď. Ak si není istá, povedz.
Lynn? Just a number. I'm looking for a number from Revelation 17.
Povedz to číslo.
You don't need to apologize. Molly?
To je zjavenie 17. Nemusíš sa ospravedňovať. Molly, skús.
No, that's fine. Catherine? Gary? Okay, I'm going to go for number 8,
Dobre, tak zoberieme číslo 8.
which is chronologically after 7, because we're not Laodicea, I think.
Nie sme Laodicea, myslím. To nie sme číslo 7.
So, anyway, that was just a bit of fun.
Dobre,
So,
to
we're a
bola taká
radical
trošku
feminist
zábava.
organization,
Takže my sme organizácia radikálneho feminizmu.
and that's one way of approaching who we are when we try to self-identify.
A toto je jeden spôsob, ako pristúpiť k tomu, že kým sme, keď sa
And I've
sami seba
Brought this
identifikujeme.
subject up multiple times,
Túto tému som priniesol niekoľkokrát
and without, hope nobody takes this personally, but I've been quite disappointed at the feedback or answers that I get.
a som taký sklamaný z tej spätnej väzby a odpovedí, ktoré som dostal.
Disappointed with myself
Som
and
sklamaný aj zo
yourselves,
seba a aj z vás.
because we don't seem to know or understand what it means to be a radical feminist organization, as far as the answers that I've received.
Zdá sa, že nerozumieme tomu podľa tých odpovedí, čo to znamená byť v organizácii radikálneho feminizmu.
So I don't know if people actually believe that we are radical in our ethos, in our behavior, in our mindset.
Neviem, či ľudia veria tomu, že sme radikálni v našom etose, v našom správaní, v našom zmýšľaní.
Okay, just to help the translator, I said ethos, behavior and mindset. So that's just to
Takže
remind them.
etos, správanie a spôsob zmýšľania.
Okay, so I don't know what the group here think,
Neviem, čo si tu myslí táto
Individually.
skupina,
but when I asked the same question in Germany in January,
keď som sa spýtal túto istú otázku v Nemecku v januári,
although people didn't say it explicitly in the way that I'm going to say this,
ľudia to nepovedali presne takto, ako ja to poviem.
and some people said they didn't even know what they were voting for, if you watch those presentations.
Niektorí ľudia povedali, ak ste to sledovali, že ani nevedeli, za čo vlastne hlasujú.
Some people said I trapped them into giving the answer that they gave.
A niektorí povedali, že som ich ako keby chytil do pasce, aby povedali to, čo povedali.
But I got the impression people were saying, they're not either happy or comfortable with the way this movement is organized, the way leaders are selected specifically.
A mal som z toho dojem, že ľudia nie sú šťastní a v súhlase s tým, ako je toto hnutie zorganizované a ako sú
Which to me, what does that say
vodcovia
to you?
vyberaní. Čo vám to povedalo?
People aren't happy with the way leaders are selected.
Ľudia nie sú šťastní s tým, ako sú vodcovia vyberaní.
Hold that thought.
To si podržte.
Then ask the question, is this movement radical? Is it a
Ja som
radical
sa
feminist
spýtal
movement?
otázku, je toto hnutie radikálneho feminizmu?
And I would argue it's asking the same question, just phrasing it differently.
A ja by som povedal, je to len tá istá otázka, len ináč položená.
Without telling you what I think, what do you think?
Čo si vymyslíte?
Go for it. Summarize my question again. Okay, so way back I asked, is this a radical feminist movement?
Vtedy som sa spýtal, či toto je hnutie radikálneho feminizmu.
Everyone says yes.
Každý
And
hovorí
when I
áno.
start probing and asking if people are sure about that,
A
people
keď
get
to
nervous.
začnem skúšať a zisťovať, či sú si ľudia o tom istí, tak znervóznia.
So I asked a different question.
Takže spýtam sa inú otázku.
When I showed the organizational structure with all the people in leadership position, even if I didn't name them all,
Keď som vtedy ukázal tú organizačnú štruktúru s tými ľuďmi v pozíciách, aj keď
I asked
som ich všetkých nemenoval,
2 questions.
spýtal som sa 2 otázky.
Are you happy with the structure?
Ste šťastní s tou štruktúrou?
Some people call it top down or pyramid.
Táto štruktúra z vrcha nadol, pyramida.
And are you happy that the selection process for putting those people in those positions was radical?
A či ste šťastní, súhlasíte povedať, že vyberanie týchto
Or good.
ľudí bolo dobré a či bolo radikálne?
We're going to define radical as being good.
Ak by sme definovali, že radikálny je dobrý.
Catherine?
Okay, so people are not happy with that, and they're saying that we're not radical as we are.
So if people aren't happy with the way leaders have been selected,
Čiže ak ľudia nie sú šťastní s tým, ako boli vodcovia vyberaní,
then they're saying that we're not really radical.
a hovoria, že vlastne nie sme naozaj radikálni.
And what are you saying, Catherine?
Me personally, my opinion on
You personally.
selected, I like the way we did the movement.
So Catherine likes the way leaders are selected.
Katrin osobne hovorí, že jej sa to páči, spôsob, ako sú tí vodcovia vybratí.
Sandy, how do you think leaders are selected?
We have leaders
Ako myslíš, Sandy, že sú
Go ahead.
vyberaní vodcovia?
in the movement, and they discuss names, the name comes up, they want someone for position, and they decide.
So Sandy says that the leaders get together,
Takže Sandy hovorí, že tí vodcovia sa
a name is
stretnú,
brought forth, they have a discussion, and
je
if they
tam
agree with that
diskusia,
name, they get
stretnú sa
into a position.
vodcovia a keď súhlasia s tým menom, tak mu dajú pozíciu.
Is that a fair summary of what you said? So,
To môžeme takto zhrnúť?
Marilyn, how do you think leaders are chosen in this movement?
Ako si ty myslíš, že sú vyberaní vodcovia v tomto hnutí?
Well, it has to come from the top.
So it has to come from the top.
It has
Musí to prísť z vrchu.
But the ones that are picked for leadership have to be already involved in Bible work, Bible studies,
Tí, ktorí sú
doing what they've done for quite a while. And then
Let me stop you there. So leaders are meant to choose people who have shown a level of competency already.
Takže vodcovia musia byť tí, ktorí už ukázali nejakú dôveru, ktorí už pracujú v tej veci.
Give me 2 or 3 markers for competency, please.
Daj mi také nejaké znamenia tej kompetencie.
Well, I would say certainly Bible work, if you want to call it.
So the first thing Marilyn says
Takže tá
is
prvá
that
vec,
they need to understand their Bible and have taught it to people. We sometimes call them Bible workers.
musia rozumieť Biblii, musia vedieť učiť ľudí. Nazývame ich biblických
So someone who
pracovníkov.
understands the Bible and has some experience in teaching.
Rozumejú Biblii a majú skúsenosť s vyučovaním.
That first summary? Okay, that's one marker. Can you give me another one?
Ešte nejaký ďalší znak?
It's down to a more personal level, I suppose, how they care for those that are around them. They're constantly being in touch. So it's a personal level also that goes with that.
So they have to understand and teach the Bible,
Musia rozumieť Biblii a učiť ju.
and also they need to be empathetic and sympathetic to, I'll say, the flock.
Musia byť empatickí s tým stádom, musia vedieť s nimi súcitiť.
That's fair summary of number 2. Anybody want to give a third one?
Ešte niekto?
Have to show some kind of leadership quality.
So they have to show some kind of leadership quality. You have to tell me what a leadership quality is.
Musíte mi povedať,
1 second.
čo to je taká nejaká kvalita vedenia.
Organizing people,
Organizing?
Organizujúc ľudí.
Organizing. Are you happy if I call that an administrator?
Keby sme to nazvali administrátor, môže byť?
Okay, so we've got 3 markers.
Máme tu 3 značky.
Understand the Bible and be able to teach.
Rozumieť Biblii a učiť ju.
Be empathetic, be sympathetic to people's needs.
Byť súcitný voči potrebám ľudí.
And they need to have, we'll say, good administrative skills.
A musia mať dobré administratívne zručnosti.
Any other thoughts?
Ešte nejaké iné myšlienky?
Catherine said dedication.
Katrin hovorí odovzdanosť.
but what about the character? Doesn't it come into
Character, I don't know what that means.
A
We've all got character.
povaha, čo ty myslíš?
it means that
1 second. Okay. So I have to let them translate. That's why I have to stop. What character do they need to have?
Akú musia mať povahu?
what sees what you hear is what they are.
So what you see is what you get.
Takže to, čo vidíš, je to, čo máš, to, čo dostaneš.
If someone's already in a leadership position,
Keď niekto je v pozícii vedenia
and they don't meet one of those 3/4 characteristics,
a nemajú niektoré z týchto charakteristík, nenaplňajú ich,
what should we do?
čo by sme mali urobiť?
Go ahead. What should we do?
Well, if you're radical,
You're radical.
then you should do something.
Mali by sme s tým niečo urobiť, mali by sme byť radikálni.
We should do something about it. Tell me what.
Povedzte mi čo.
Get together, that's it, and maybe try to encourage the person, or in the areas that the person is not.
We should try to encourage them, and in the areas of weakness.
Takže mali by sme vedieť pozbudiť ľudí v tých
If
oblastiach
someone is
slabosti.
uncaring, can you train that into them?
Keď niekto je nestarostlivý, môžeme ich to naučiť?
I'm going to take that as a no.
Vezmem to ako nie.
So would you fire them?
Vyhodila by si ho, toho
Dismiss them.
človeka?
If you're radical, you would.
So the answer is yes.
Takže odpoveď je áno.
Anyone else got any thoughts?
Ešte niekto má nejaké myšlienky?
I thought, would they be in that position anyway if there was a little discrepancy on anything that they did? I mean, they've got to meet the standard right from the get-go.
So Marilyn says that if they had a shortfall in one of these areas, they would never have even been selected in the first place.
Marian hovorí, že keď by nemali nejaké tie charakteristiky, tak by neboli vybratí, tak by ich nikto nevybral.
I wish I could believe that, Marilyn.
Dúfam, že toto by bola pravda, Marilyn.
They do. But
A second. Go ahead.
I'm not saying they don't have failings. That's not the issue. There's just certain criteria that you need to be able to be in that position, that leadership role. And they can all have failings. I mean, I'm not. But I think it's how we draw the line, and we're all critical at times.
Okay. So everybody's got failings,
Každý má nejaké...
and it's how we deal with them.
Každý nejako zlyháva. Ide skôr o to, ako sa s tým vysporiadame.
So several of the answers have said that the leaders need to get together and do this selection process, and it all sounds really good.
Toto znie dobre, že vodcovia sa stretnú a spolu sa dohodnú.
Until you ask the question,
Dokiaľ sa neopýtate otázku,
what question would you ask,
akú?
Elder Terry?
Terry.
When all these leaders get together and do their selection process.
Títo vodcovia sa stretnú a urobia tento výber.
What question we would ask of the leaders or of the person being?
Not of the person, no. What we would ask of that, someone's proposed, several of you have proposed, the leaders get together, they do a selection process, and it'll all be good because they've got some criteria.
Niektorí z vás navrhli, že vodcovia sa stretnú a vyberú nejakého človeka, zhodnú sa na tom, budeme mať nejaké kritériá.
Let me put it, what's the elephant in the room?
A čo je tu za problém? Čo je ten slon v miestnosti?
Elder Terry said, are they radical?
Staršia Terry hovorí, sú radikálne?
Like fully bought into.
Who is the they?
Kto sú oni?
So we question one another.
I'm asking you, when you said, Elder Terry said, the they, are they radical? I asked her who the they were.
Ja som sa spýtal, že či sú oni radikálni.
So Elder
Kto sú
Terry
tí
said
oni?
the candidate is the they. Are they radical?
Staršia hovorí, že tí kandidáti sú radikálni.
So what I want to ask is, are the leaders radical?
Sú tí vodcovia radikálni?
Elder Terry?
So the leader is the elephant in the room.
So I'm
Takže
suggesting the leaders are the elephant in the room.
Ty-
They're the thing that people are afraid to discuss.
Vodcovia sú tí sloni v tej miestnosti, o nich sa boja ľudia hovoriť.
Back in the day,
Dávnejšie.
back in the day, tell me what year and how many elders we had.
V ktorom roku a koľko starších sme mali?
Go with the year first. Josephine?
I think up till what, 2014? There's only one.
Not 2014.
Nie, 2014.
2001? No. No. So, oh, sorry. We had 2014, we had 2001, and then we had 1989.
Mali sme 2014, 2001 a
And the hint, they were all going in the wrong direction.
1989. No to ideme zlým smerom, vidím.
$2019.
2019.
2019? No.
Nie.
2016 is the answer.
2016 to je tá odpoveď.
Ray, how many elders?
Koľko sme mali vtedy starších?
How many leaders? We'll go with leaders, elders.
Koľko sme mali
5,
vodcov?
Ray said.
Ray hovorí 5.
Wasn't 5. Molly? Molly said 2.
Molly hovorí 2.
When they hear these answers, they're not going to be happy. with these leaders.
Keď to budú počuť, nebudú veľmi šťastní.
7.
7.
No.
Nie.
1? Who was that one?
Jedného. Kto bol ten jeden?
Josephine said it was 1, Elder Jeff.
To bol
No.
starší Jeff.
So 3. 3 is the answer. We'll go for 3. Okay. So, Marion, you're going to give me the names? Myself? Not Tess? You can confirm and cheat. Tabo. And the one from South America, he's going to like that when he hears that. The one, Marco, the one from South America. That's what they said. You heard it. You heard it live from Australia. Okay, so we had 3. Tell me why it was 3.
Povedzte mi, prečo to boli traja.
Lynn said because Elder Jeff decided.
Lebo to tak rozhodol starší Jeff.
Are you going to translate that?
Môžeme to preložiť?
So it was only 3 because the 4th one didn't turn up.
Boli to len traja, lebo ten 4. sa neukázal.
Tell me how radical that is.
Aké radikálne je to?
Couldn't make it for whatever reason, and I'm not laughing about that. But if the person had turned up, we would have had 4.
Keby ten človek prišiel, mali by sme už 4. Mali by sme 4, ale neprišiel.
Okay, so the 3/4 people.
Takže tí traja lomeno 4 ľudia.
And I'm not making a point about them being men, not women.
Teraz nehovorím o tom, že to boli muži a nie ženy.
What's the selection process?
Aký bol ten proces toho vyberania?
Have a guess.
Hádajte.
Is it those 4 beautiful things that you all mentioned?
Sú to všetky tieto pekné veci, ktoré ste spomenuli?
So everyone online, people are smiling when they ask that question. The people here are laughing.
Sa tu všetci smejú, keď to počujú.
Okay, so the answer is no.
Odpoveď je nie.
What was the basis of selection?
Na základe čoho sa to vyberalo?
So Marilyn said she'd actually like to know.
Marilyn hovorí, že by to chcela
She waited
vedieť.
8 years to find out. And never asked. Okay, we're gonna answer the question now.
Dobre, skúsime na to odpovedať teraz.
Spiritual,
Ray.
spiritual qualities, like that, having a good spiritual relationship.
So Ray, is that a question? Can't ask questions.
We'll go with, like having a spiritual relationship.
Okay, so Ray said those 4 qualities we mentioned about studying, empathy, administration, good character, those were the characteristics.
Takže
He wants to believe
študijný typ, má dobrú povahu, verný. Toto boli také vlastnosti.
And Lynn, knowing the truth, said what?
A Lynn vedela pravdu a povedala čo?
How the decision was made as to who, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so Lynn has answered the wrong question.
Lynn odpovedala na nesprávnu otázku.
Tell me what the basis of selection was.
Na základe čoho sa robil ten výber? Čo bol základ toho výberu?
Favour of approval of being teaching the same thing. In other words, the leader approved of what they were believed in.
Okay, so Lynn says the reason they got selected is because they agreed with Elder Jeff.
Ten dôvod, prečo boli vybraní, bol preto, lebo boli v súhlase so starším Jeffom.
I think that's unfair, Lynn,
Myslím, že toto je nefér povedať.
because you're already a member and got baptized because you believe what Elder Jeff believed.
Takže ty si členom a pokrstená len preto, lebo si verila, čo veril starší Jeff.
So Josephine has said, was it because of geographical location?
Bolo to kvôli geografii?
So
Sa
I'm going to
pýtal
say
niekto? Ja poviem,
no,
nie.
because I know people who live in this location would disagree with me.
Viem, že ľudia, ktorí žijú v týchto oblastiach, by so mnou nesúhlasili.
But Central America and South America are almost the same.
Ale Centrálna a Južná Amerika, to je takmer to isté.
People who live there would not agree with that. I
Ľudia,
understand.
ktorí tam žijú, s tým by nesúhlasili, áno, to viem.
So we've got a Canadian.
Máme tu Kanaďana,
I'm going to say 2 South Americans. I know one is central.
dvoch Juhoameričanov, viem, že ten jeden je v Centrálnej.
And this is not literally me, but a Brexiteer.
Toto nie som doslovne ja.
I can't even say a European.
Nemôžem povedať ani Európan, ja som už Brexit.
So there are large areas of the world that are not properly covered.
Sú veľké oblasti sveta, ktoré nie sú poriadne pokryté.
So it wasn't really based upon geography.
Nebolo to založené na geografii.
Are you familiar with the word spin?
To slovo krútiť alebo vrtieť, poznáte to?
We'll use the word fairy tale because you'll know what that
Nie,
is.
poznáme iné slovo. To je rozprávka, to poznáte.
Geographical regions is the spin or the fairy tale story that we gave afterwards to legitimize what was done.
Tie geografické oblasti, to je taká rozprávka, ktorú sme na to napasovali, aby sme vysvetlili, čo sa stalo.
So I'm in Australia. at the
Som v
moment,
Austrálii.
Australasia, Oceania.
Oceány.
And I think it would, for the members here, I think it would serve you well if you knew a little bit about your own history.
Myslím, že by bolo pre vás dobre, keby ste vedeli niečo o vašich vlastných dejinách.
Movement history.
O dejinách hnutia.
And why you're not at the very beginning on that list.
A prečo vy nie ste na začiatku toho zoznamu?
So we're not going to go into that, but I think it'd be worthwhile you having a study on that, just so, because I'm guessing some of you are not familiar with why you weren't part of the 3/4, and it should have ended up being 5 perhaps, why that didn't happen.
Nejdem teraz o tom hovoriť, ale stalo by to za to sa pozrieť na to, že prečo to neboli prečo to boli tí 3/4 a nie 5, prečo vy ste tam neboli zahrnutí.
Okay, so for me, the problem that this movement faces,
Pre mňa ten problém, ktorému čelí toto hnutie,
without disparaging myself or person from South America and Elder Tabo,
bez toho, že by som znevážil seba, alebo toho človeka z Južnej Ameriky, alebo staršieho Taba,
we were all chosen because we were good friends of Elder Jeff.
my sme boli vybraní preto, lebo sme boli dobrí priatelia staršieho Jeffa.
It wasn't even because we were the best at Bible studying
To nebolo preto, že by sme boli najlepší v dávaní biblických štúdií,
or that we were all empathetic.
alebo že by sme boli všetci takí súcitní.
Could argue that we were all pathetic.
Asi sme všetci patetickí.
And I don't know if we're all really good at admin.
A neviem, či sme veľmi dobrí v tej administratívnej práci.
Catherine?
Katrin?
So was there an element of we being led by God?
Nebol to...
So I think the simple answer to that is yes and no.
Bol tam element toho, že sme boli proste vedení Bohom? Jednoduchá odpoveď na toto je aj nie,
Depends
aj
who you
áno.
ask.
Koho sa pýtaš, závisí od toho.
If you asked Elder Jeff, it would be a yes.
Ak sa spýtaš staršieho Jeffa, bude to áno.
Because he would view everything as, we'll call it providence.
On všetko veril, že bolo vedené, že bolo
And not to
prozreteľne
speak on
vedené.
behalf of others, but if you ask myself,
Ak sa spýtaš
no.
mňa, ja poviem nie.
I think he just liked me, to be honest.
Proste ma mal len rád, ja si myslím, že takto to bolo.
And that seemed to be enough for him.
A to pre ňo bolo dosť.
So why do you trust the leaders who were put into positions of responsibility
Prečo dôverujete vodcom, ktorí boli daní do zodpovedných pozícií,
but at least on the surface appear unrighteous reasons,
ktorí sú tam, aspoň keď sa na to pozrieme povrchne, z nespravodlivých dôvodov?
and you expect them to select leaders on a radical feminist or just a radical basis?
A my očakávame, že budeme vodcov vyberať na nejakých radikálnych základoch.
Any thoughts?
Nejaké myšlienky?
You have a thought, Josephine?
Because since then the message has grown and maybe people have changed.
So from 2016 to now, Josephine has suggested
Od 2016 až doteraz, čo Josephine povedala, navrhla,
I've grown into my job.
som vrastol do mojej práce, do mojej funkcie.
And for whatever reason I was chosen, actually it's turned out good that I became one of the leaders.
Akéhokoľvek dôvodu som bol zvolený, dopadlo to dobre, že som jedným z vodcov.
Is that what you said, Josephine?
To si povedala Josephine?
Josephine says yes.
Josephine hovorí áno.
So the next leader we choose,
Takže to ďalšie, čo si zvolíme,
we choose anybody,
môžeme si zvoliť kohokoľvek.
because you're my friend,
Vy ste moji priatelia
and then you'll just grow up into the job,
a proste dorastiete do tej práce.
which is just breaking all the rules that Marilyn gave to us a moment ago.
Týmto porušíme všetky pravidlá, ktoré nám Marilyn pred chvíľou dala.
She said you have to demonstrate before.
To musíte demonštrovať predtým, ona hovorí.
You want to say something, Josephine?
Yes, but what if you were selected before
Mel's
So the problem is, what do you do with legacy issues?
A problém je, čo urobíme s tou legislatívou?
First of all, should we not approach them honestly
Nemali by sme k ním prichádzať úprimne
and then decide what we want to do about it?
a potom sa rozhodnete, čo budete so
Those
mnou
early
robiť.
leaders, do we analyze them and get rid of them,
Tí
or
ran-
see that they've grown and keep them?
Tí ranní vodcovia, zanalizujeme ich a buď ich vyhodíme, alebo vidíme, či vzrástli do tej pozície a necháme si ich.
What would a radical movement do?
Čo by urobilo radikálne hnutie?
Josephine? So Josephine said a radical movement would analyze them,
Takže radikálne hnutie ho analyzovalo,
but you also said that they could grow into the job
ale tiež
from
povedal,
failure to success.
tiež si povedal, že oni môžu vzrásť do tej práce. Ide od neúspechu k úspechu.
Okay, I didn't understand what Josephine just said.
Nerozumel som, čo povedala Josephine.
So Josephine says we don't know what's in the heart of the person.
Josephine hovorí, nevieme, čo je v srdci toho človeka.
Quick show of hands. Who agrees with Josephine?
Kto súhlasí s Josephine?
Who disagrees with Josephine?
Kto s ňou nesúhlasí?
Oh, it's 50-50 and half the people didn't vote.
Very close.
So, like, question.
In 2016,
In 2016,
were you honest?
was I honest?
Bol som ja
As
úprimný v
honest as I am in
2016,
2024.
tak ako aj som v 2024.
But you started off in a movement back then that you could categorically say no to, that you didn't do back then.
Yes. And the point being?
Well, it's all about honesty.
So Marilyn says that it's all about honesty.
Marilyn hovorí, že všetko je to o úprimnosti.
Well, I'm a politician.
Ja som politik.
Some people call me a political animal.
Alebo nie som politik, niektorí mi hovoria politické zviera.
I prefer the term pragmatist
Ja hovorím, ja som pragmatický.
or realist.
Alebo realista.
And would you trust someone like that to
Very-
tell the truth?
Verili by ste niekomu takému?
Would you, Marilyn?
I think it's very important to say what you mean and mean what you say. And then hopefully everybody else understands what you're saying.
So Marilyn says it's really important to say what you mean and mean what you say.
Marilyn hovorí, že je veľmi dôležité povedať, čo si myslíte a naozaj myslieť vážne
And
to,
that's
čo
the
hovoríte.
biggest thing I get accused of
To je najväčšia, z tohto ma najviac obviňujú,
not doing that in all of my studies.
že to nerobím v mojich štúdiách.
I'm not accusing you of that, am I?
So
I don't want to do that.
Marilyn doesn't want to accuse me, so I'll self-accuse myself.
Že obvinujem sám seba.
What I want us to understand and think about
To, čo chcem, aby sme porozumeli a o čom máme rozmýšľať,
is if you were going to create a movement,
je, že keď utvoríte hnutie,
would it look like this?
vyzeralo by to takto?
And if you're going to have a set of leaders
Keď máte nejakých
amongst all
vodcov,
the 1,000
skupinu
people, 1,000
vodcov,
members we have in our
nad
movement,
vyše 1000 ľuďmi, ktorých máme v našom hnutí,
who would you choose?
koho by ste si vybrali?
And more importantly, on what basis would you choose them?
Koho by ste vybrali a na akom základe?
we've got what we've got,
Máme, čo máme.
and the question is, do we just carry on with that,
A
or do we pause,
otázka je, či budeme s tým pokračovať, alebo sa zastavíme.
understand what it means to be radical,
Porozumiete, čo to znamená byť radikálny.
and then decide whether or not changes need to be made,
A potom sa rozhodnete, či áno, alebo nie, či sa treba robiť nejaké zmeny.
or do we just pick flawed people?
Alebo len vyberieme nejakých takých flawed people,
Flawed means not perfect,
nie dokonalých ľudí
and let them grow in the job.
a necháme, nech dorastú do tej práce.
And the problem with that
Problém s
idea
s touto myšlienkou,
is that when you get a job in the church, we'll use the term church now,
je, že keď dostanete prácu v cirkvi,
what ends up happening once you get your job?
čo sa nakoniec stane, keď dostanete takúto prácu?
What, Terry?
Got it below.
It ends up becoming a job for life.
To sa stane prácou na doživotie.
It's hard to get rid of people
Je ťažké sa ľudí vzdať alebo ich vyhodiť.
because we don't want to publicly accuse people. We all want to look nice.
Nechceme ich verejne obviniť, chceme to všetko, aby vyzeralo pekne.
Sandy?
Often in the church, no one else wants that job.
So Sandy's brought up another point.
Sandy priniesla
I
ešte
asked about
ďalšiu
the selection
pointu.
process,
Ja som sa pýtal o tomto procese týchto otázok.
and we had all these noble thoughts.
Mali sme tu tieto noblesné myšlienky
And the reality is most of the time we can't get anybody to do anything.
a problém je, že nemôžeme
Which
ľudí
means you have to
primäť.
scrape the barrel. We're familiar with that term. You have to go to the bottom
Problém je, že nemôžeme ľudí prinútiť niečo spraviť. Musíme
and get
prísť.
anybody we can to do it.
My proste musíme ísť ako keby na dno a zobrať kohokoľvek.
And that's obviously a really bad way of operating.
A toto je zlý spôsob fungovania.
So I want us to really consider,
Chcem, aby sme naozaj zvážili,
whilst we have some time left,
zatiaľ čo nám zostáva nejaký čas,
what you think this movement should look like and if changes should be made.
čo si myslíte, ako by malo vyzerať toto hnutie a či by bolo treba spraviť nejaké zmeny.
And if you hurt people's feelings,
A
so be it.
ak ublížite pocitom druhých ľudí, nech je to tak.
Molly?
Molly?
I think the movement, if we claim to be a radical movement, then everything else that we do, even the selection of leaders, have to be radical. Everything we do, we need to cut to the chase. We need to don't go around the bush, but straightforward with everything.
So Molly said if we're a radical movement,
Molly hovorí, ak sme radikálne hnutie,
the radical members should choose radical leaders.
radikálni členovia by mali zvoliť radikálnych vodcov.
Problem is members don't choose leaders.
Ale členovia nevolia vodcov.
So the existing leaders are going to choose radical leaders.
Čiže tí existujúci vodcovia by mali zvoliť radikálnych vodcov.
Okay, who would choose a leader
Kto by zvolil vodcu,
who has not done baptismal classes?
ktorý neurobil
Would you choose a
hodiny,
leader who hasn't done baptismal classes?
hodiny krstných slubov?
Greg? So Graham says yes.
Graham hovorí áno.
He would choose a leader who has never taught a baptismal
On
class.
by zvolil vodcu, ktorý nikdy neučil krstné sluby.
Graham, do you not think it's important for them to be able to understand the message and teach it and to demonstrate that?
Nemyslíš si, že je dôležité, aby to vedeli to posolstvo a mohli ho učiť?
So Graham said, yes, it's important, but you've also said it's not, it doesn't matter if they have demonstrated that or not.
A to je jedno, či to niekedy ukázali alebo nie.
Unless you didn't understand my question.
Rozumel som mojej otázke?
I have come in late, so I might have missed something.
You missed nothing? So my question is, if someone has never taught a baptismal class,
Takže moja otázka je, keď niekto nikdy neučil krstné sľuby
so we don't know if they understand the mechanics of this message,
a nevieme, či rozumejú, ako funguje toto posolstvo,
should they be selected as leader?
mali by byť vybraní za vodcu.
Okay, so Graham, I think maybe I didn't frame the question correctly, and he's saying no, that they shouldn't be.
A on hovorí, že nie, nemali by byť zvolení za vodcu.
We all agree with that?
Súhlasíme?
Rachel? Hypothetically speaking,
Rachel, hypoteticky,
perhaps,
možno,
we have a leader in the movement who hasn't done any baptismal classes.
máme vodcu v našom hnutí, ktorý nedal žiadne hodiny krstných sľubov.
What do you suggest we do?
Čo myslíš, že by sme mali urobiť?
So if they haven't done any baptismal studies, then having that foundation, I think is essential to know how to teach the message. So they either have an opportunity to teach them, or if they're willing to teach them, wanting to teach them,
Hello?
then I think that just shows that they're willing to find a word, willing to take that opportunity to be a good leader, like wanting to take that on board and actually applying it.
So Rachel has said
Rachel povedala,
an existing leader
že existujúci vodca,
who has not done baptismal classes,
ktorý neurobil hodiny
they
krstných
shouldn't be
sľubov,
fired,
nemali by byť vyhodení,
dismissed,
vyhodení,
but they should be given an opportunity to do some baptismal
ale mali by
classes.
dostať možnosť robiť nejaké hodiny krstných sľubov.
How many classes should they do?
Koľko by mali urobiť tých hodín?
How many?
How many sets of vows? How many students?
Koľko študentov?
Is that 13?
Oh no, one student will do 26 vows,
Takže keď urobíš s tých 26 sľubov,
6 months approximately.
to je asi 6 mesiacov.
How many students should they take through studies?
Koľko študentov by mali takto urobiť vlastne, akože koľko štúdií s nimi?
4.
4.
So they need to do 2 years of study
Takže musia urobiť 2 roky
of
štúdia,
teaching
učenia,
before they would be considered competent.
predtým ako ich zvážia kompetentných.
If they say yes,
Ak povedia áno,
all good.
všetko v poriadku.
What about if they said, I'm too busy?
Čo keď povedia, som príliš zanepráznený?
Catherine? So Catherine says, fire them.
Katrin hovorí, tak ich vyhoďte.
Chris? They say, I'm willing,
Chris,
but I'm not a good teacher. I don't know.
Chris povie, som ochotný, ale nie som dobrý učiteľ, ja neviem.
what do we do with them then?
Čo s nimi potom urobíme?
They're willing and have that opportunity to do it.
So they're willing to do it,
Sú ochotní to urobiť,
but they're just no good.
ale nie sú dobrí v tom.
Taking somebody through 26 hours for 6 months, once a week, plus or minus, is, if done properly, is a task and a bit. If I don't know if you're a baptismal teacher, but if you ask those who do it, it's you really need to know your stuff. You do it properly.
Musíte to urobiť poriadne, musíte rozumieť tomu, čo učíte. Keď tieto krstné sľuby učíte.
Yep, others to determine.
Yeah. So you said so Chris said someone has to make a decision.
Chris hovorí, že niekto musí spraviť rozhodnutie.
So I'm asking you to make the decision. What would you decide to do?
Keby ty si musel spraviť to rozhodnutie, čo by si sa rozhodol urobiť?
Yes, they're not good at teaching.
Nie sú dobrí v učení.
Supposed to be the basis of the movement, isn't it?
You tell me what you want to do with them.
Čo s nimi spravíš?
If this was the US election thing, wouldn't you know what to do?
Keby to boli voľby v Spojených štátoch, nevedel by si, čo máš robiť?
You wouldn't vote for them.
Ty by
Which
si...
means they lose their job, I presume.
Keď by si mal ísť voliť,
So we agree with that?
tak by stratili svoju prácu.
If they're not good at the job, what's the point?
Ak nie sú dobrí v tej práci, tak na čo ju majú robiť? Aká to je pointa?
So if they're not willing, fire them.
Keď nie ste ochotní, keď nie sú ochotní, vyhoďte
If
ich.
they're just not any good,
Ak
fire them.
a nie sú dobrí, vyhoďte ich.
Because you can have a refresher course, that's something that's tailored for a particular, you know.
Okay, so the suggestion is this leader who doesn't know how to teach, doesn't know we'll call it our 26 fundamental beliefs, someone has to now teach them all of that, so then they can become a teacher to teach someone else.
Takže tí, ktorí sú vodcovia a nevedia poriadne tých 27 základných vieroučných bodov, niekto musí ich vyučiť, aby oni mohli učiť ďalších.
And in the meantime,
A medzi tým,
who's teaching the flock?
kto bude učiť
You.
to stádo, vás?
So we're going to replace the person.
Takže toho človeka nahradíme.
Anybody got any thoughts?
Má niekto nejaké myšlienky?
Let them do a bad job.
Elder Terry says, let them do a bad job.
Tak nech tú prácu robia zle.
Josephine.
So willing, that's after that. And if that person can report, then that person will do a good job.
So if you're willing,
Ak ste ochotní,
then that's half the battle.
tak to je polka toho súboja už.
So they're going to go to vow number 6,
Takže pôjdu k 6. sľubu
practicing on this innocent flock member.
a budú to praktizovať na tomto nevinnom členovi chudakovi.
They don't know what they're doing.
Nevedia, čo robia
They say, hold on.
a povedia, počkajte,
They speak to their friend.
a porozprávajú sa
They
so
say,
svojím
Terry, how did this
kamarátom.
vow go?
Terry, ako to je s týmto sľubom?
Get a quick refresher course
Rýchlo mi to pripomenie
and then carry on with the study with the member.
A bude pokračovať, rýchlo si to pripomenia, bude pokračovať s tým členom v tom
that's what
štúdiu.
Elder Terry and yourself have said.
Asi to povedala staršia Terry.
Marilyn first.
If he doesn't know how to do it, or there's particular reasons why he can't, and he doesn't know the vows, how can you teach something that you don't know? Generally, that's the problem with not being able to teach. And I mean, people get nervous, and you've got to, that's just part of presentations.
So Marilyn says, how can you teach something that you don't know?
Ako môžeme učiť niečo, čo nevieme, čo nepoznáme?
So he has to be dethroned to start.
So you have to fire her first, her or him.
Whoever.
Okay.
Najprv ho musíme vyhodiť,
Not fire necessarily.
alebo ju.
So let me clarify. We will fire a female leader because she can't teach.
Well, she can't teach. What's the point then? It's not racist or sexist. I'm not looking at this from a sexist point of view.
I'm looking at their faces and they all think it's sexist right over there.
Pozerám sa na ich tváre a oni o tom rozmýšľajú, že je to sexistické. Henty tam.
Molly.
Molly?
Isn't that what Jesus was making reference as blind lead the blind?
So Jesus is making reference to blind lead the blind.
Ježiš hovorí o tom, že slepí vedú slepých.
Who agrees with that Bible verse in the context that we're talking about?
Kto súhlasí s týmto,
Is that a correct application of that verse?
biblickým veršom
Blind leaders of the blind.
v tom kontexte, o ktorom hovoríme? Je to správna aplikácia na tento verš? Slepý vedie
Anybody got an
slepých?
opinion?
Máte na to niekto názor?
So this is Matthew 15:14.
Takže toto je Matúš 15:14.
Molly, you and I, all of us,
Ty a ja, my všetci,
are we the disciples, the 12,
sme učeníci, tí 12,
or are we the priesthood, the Pharisees, the scribes?
alebo sme kňažstvo, farizeji.
So we're the disciples.
Takže my sme učeníci.
And so if you make an application, as you've just done of Matthew 15:14,
Ak sme našli aplikáciu Matúša 15:14,
at a minimum, we have to be really careful to apply a verse like this to us.
minimálne by sme mali
Fall in the same category.
problém aplikovať tento verš na nás.
Don't we fall in the same category if we allow somebody who doesn't know what he's teaching to teach the flock?
So Molly says, if the hat fits, then wear it. If you're familiar with that term.
No, ak ti pasuje ten klobúk, tak ho nos. Poznáte ten pojem?
You familiar with that phrase?
Poznáte to?
My translator? Okay, good. So the problem with that,
Problém s týmto je,
what's John called?
ako nazývajú Johna?
The son of
Syna
thunder.
Syna hromu.
Is that a compliment?
Je to kompliment
Or an
alebo
accusation?
obvinenie?
A compliment.
Kompliment.
I think in the context it's actually an insult, not a compliment.
Je to urážka, nebol to kompliment.
He's an angry man
On bol nahnevaný muž, je nahnevaný,
in a leadership position,
vo vedúcej
which
pozícii.
according to us would disqualify him anyway.
To by podľa nás ho diskvalifikovalo
And he's teaching people error.
a učí ľudí to, čo nie je pravda.
And we could go to the other 10 and show really simply that they're all teaching error.
Môžeme ísť s tým ďalším
We'll
desiatim
go
a
back to
povedať,
their
že
leader. Who's their leader?
oni učia všetci chybu. Kto je ich vodca?
John the Baptist.
Ján Krstiteľ.
So was John the Baptist good or bad?
Bol Ján Krstiteľ zlý alebo dobrý?
Was John the Baptist teaching error?
Učil Ján Krstiteľ chybu?
Yeah.
Áno.
So his teaching error.
Takže on učí nejaký omyl.
Is John the Baptist blind?
Je slepý?
I mean, he didn't know that he was teaching it.
I'm going to suggest that John the Baptist wasn't blind.
Chcel by som povedať, že Ján Krstiteľ nebol slepý,
and that even though he had misunderstandings,
aj keď mal neporozumenia,
he was bringing people to eternal life
priniesol,
with the errors.
on prinášal ľudí k večnému
But these
životu,
people-
aj s tými omylmi.
These are blind leaders.
Ale toto sú slepí vodcovia.
And it says leaders of the blind.
Sú to vodcovia slepých.
And I think John, Matthew, the others, they weren't blind in that sense.
Ale v tomto zmysle Ján a
So I would suggest that a verse like
ostatní
this
vodcovia neboli slepí ako učeníci.
shouldn't really be used
V tomto zmysle.
to apply to us.
Čiže ja hovorím, že tento verš my by sme nemali používať na to, aby sme ho aplikovali na nás.
Because this blindness,
Lebo táto slepota,
it's deliberate.
to je zámerná slepota.
Those leaders are deliberately blind because they reject the truth, and John the Baptist never did that.
Oni odmietli pravdu a toto Ján Krstiteľ nikdy neurobil.
James.
Going back to the hypothetical leader, I was thinking of the parable of the sower, the experience of the servants and the seeds in the field.
So James is going to take us back to Matthew 13.
Takže on nás vracia k Matúšovi 13.
Go ahead.
I was thinking, even though he's a bad teacher, he needs that experience to teach.
So James is making the same point that Josephine made and Elder Terry made, that they need the experience to teach.
On hovorí tú istú myšlienku, ktorú aj staršia Terry, že musia mať skúsenosť s učením.
Any other thoughts? Questions on this?
Máte ešte nejaké myšlienky alebo otázky k tomuto?
Ray.
You first started talking about are we a radical movement this evening? I kept coming back to what we had been taught about what radical means is to get to the root of a problem.
So when I brought up the subject about whether or not this movement is radical or not,
Keď som priniesol tému o tom, či toto hnutie je radikálne alebo nie,
Ray was reminded of the meaning of the word radical.
Rayovi bolo pripomenuté význam slova radikálny.
So several people have spoken about removing people from leadership positions because they're not good at their job.
Niektorí ľudia hovorili o tom, že odňať ľudí z ich vedúcich pozícií, lebo nerobia svoju prácu dobre.
And that whole mentality or way of thinking
A táto celá mentalita alebo spôsob rozmýšľania
reminded Ray of a TV show.
pripomenula Rayovi takú televíznu show.
Is it called The Apprentice? Or? Yeah, I think it's called The Apprentice, where Donald Trump would fire people who didn't meet the mark.
Donald Trump vyhadzoval ľudí, ktorí nezodpovedali, ktorí nenaplňali tie požiadavky.
I just think it's not the way to go. I don't know what the way is, but I think it's a clear no.
So Ray says firing people isn't the way to go, but he doesn't know what is the way to go.
On hovorí, že vyhodiť tých ľudí to nie je dobrý spôsob, ale nevie, že čo by bol dobrý spôsob.
Which means that we don't fire people.
Takže nevyhadzujeme ľudí.
Certain circumstances where they're just hard no, that's things that certain behaviours are not okay. But
Okay, so we're not talking about criminality, but you're saying that we don't fire people.
Nehovoríme o kriminalite, ale my ľudí neprepušťame.
the way to go.
What is the way to go?
Akým spôsobom teda to budeme robiť?
Tell me how you will rehabilitate
Ako to
Emma from the UK.
Ako rehabilituješ Emu
So if
v Spojenom kráľovstve?
I'm at work and I have a subordinate who doesn't
No, how will you rehabilitate Emma?
Ako rehabilituješ Emu?
the example that we've been using of letting someone take baptismal studies. We let them take more baptismal studies and try and work with them if there's areas identified where they can improve.
So you don't have any access to her,
Čiže nemáš k nej žiaden prístup,
so you won't rehabilitate her.
takže ty ju nebudeš rehabilitovať.
So you would trust her members to do that,
Ty by si sa spoliehal na členov, ktorých ona má, aby to spravili.
and her peers to do that,
A jej kamarátov alebo spolu.
fellow leaders. So you would trust the
Spolubojovníkov.
system and the process.
Čiže dôveruješ tomu systému v tom procese.
Okay. Anyone else got any thoughts?
Ešte niekto má nejaké myšlienky?
A bit concerned, say if we fire somebody that's been selected as a leader, the process ought to be done really carefully because we could lose that particular person, and I don't think that's our motive for doing it, but
So Josephine said if we do fire somebody, we should do it carefully.
Josephine hovorí, ak niekoho vyhodíme, mali by sme to spraviť opatrne.
I think any reasonable person would agree with that.
Je tu niekto, kto by s tým nesúhlasil?
we could take it as shame, you know, they've been doing this job and then they're being fired. They could lose
They could lose their eternal life.
Môžu stratiť večný život?
can walk right out. I'm concerned about that.
So whose eternal life should we worry about? Theirs or the collateral
Oko-
damage that they do in the
O koho
movement?
večný život by sme sa mali obávať? O ich alebo o celkovú tú škodu, ktorú robia v hnutí?
Who would you prioritize, the leader or the member?
Koho by si prioritizovala? Člena alebo hnutie? Teda členov alebo vodcu.
So someone at my level,
Takže niekto na tej mojej úrovni,
if I do or say something wrong, it affects lots of people.
keď ja poviem niečo zlé, bude to mať dopad na mnohých ľudí.
The higher you go, the harder the fall.
Čím vyššie ideš, tým je tvrdší ten pád.
Let me ask another question. We've spoken about leaders should be able to teach.
Hovorili sme o tom, že vodcovia by mali byť schopní učiť.
We've got various levels in our movement.
Máme rôzne úrovne v našom hnutí.
How far do you have to go in this organization before you say they don't have to teach?
Ako ďaleko musíte ísť v rámci tejto organizácie, kým by ste povedali, že títo už nemusia učiť?
So there's me, continental leaders, then local leaders,
Je mnoho tých kontinentálnych vodcov,
Board members.
lokálnych vodcov a rôznych členov výboru.
and then we'll say you.
A napríklad vy.
I'm going to go with 5 levels.
Pôjdeme na 5 úrovní.
So if we're going to talk about removing people,
Keď budeme hovoriť o odstraňovaní ľudí,
at what level do you say we can stop now?
na akej úrovni môžeme povedať, že by sme prestali?
Lynn?
I think they all teach, don't they? They all should all teach. Shouldn't everybody in the movement, even all the members, teach? Isn't that what the priests were supposed to be, teachers?
Okay, so Lynn, you can't ask questions, you have to just give answers. Just tell me.
Okay. I think everyone was supposed to.
Okay, so we go right down to the members.
Takže ideme až ku tým členom.
And what happens if the members won't teach?
Čo sa stane, ak tí členovia nebudú učiť?
Are they really members?
That's a question. You tell me what you do if
Čo-
someone says, I won't teach.
Čo by si
I'm
spravila?
just a member.
Čo by si spravila, keď niekto povie, ja nebudem učiť, ja som len člen?
Start by saying, I would.
I would
Začni tým, že ja by som.
think they were really a member.
Why you question yourself, you question them.
Čo
Who are you
budeš,
questioning?
čo budeš spochybňovať?
Right, form the question. Are they coming to me or am I making a decision? What's the relevance of that?
I'm asking you where your theological understanding is.
Jaké máš v tom teologické porozumenie?
Would be if someone is refusing to teach at any level, because it can be small level, very low level, even just one-on-one occasional things. If you're refusing to teach anything, you question if they're a member, really.
Ako nie,
So you're saying that you don't consider them to be members.
čiže ty ich
I
vlastne
question-
nepovažuješ za členov, ty
I
Who are you
spochybňuješ,
questioning?
ty spochybňuješ ich
Who are you
členstvo.
questioning? You're questioning them in your mind. Are they a member? So the answer is they're not a member.
Ty vo svojej hlave ich spochybňuješ. Oni vlastne podľa teba nie sú členovia, keď
So Lynn
odmietajú
says
učiť.
if you're not teaching and you're a normal member, you're not really a member.
Lynn hovorí, ak ste členom a neučíte, v skutočnosti nie ste členom.
That's more or less what I said. Yeah.
Okay.
That's right, but that's what I think.
Molly.
With all the levels that we talk about, aren't we supposed to be priests?
Molly says we're priests.
Yeah. If we are priests, we mean to teach. And whatever level that we have, we teach what we got.
And the primary role of the priest in the Bible is one of teacher. They had other job functions, so that means we should all teach. So the 80% of our movement that don't teach, what are they?
Čiže my by sme všetci mali učiť, pretože našou hlavnou úlohou je byť členmi tohto hnutia, našou hlavnou úlohou je učiť. Čiže všetci by
They're
sme
lower
mali
grade
učiť.
priests, like below members.
Ten, kto neučí, tak čo on je? Nejaký podradný kňaz?
As priests, we're supposed to go to the lost sheep. We are not lost sheep, we are priests. We're supposed to go to the lost sheep of Israel.
Okay. Eldest
My
Terry,
nie sme stratené ovce,
Any
my
thoughts?
máme ísť ku strateným ovciam a preto máme vedieť učiť.
at what level?
All levels should have the opportunity to
So all levels should be teaching.
Všetky úrovne by mali učiť.
And what if people won't teach or don't teach?
A čo keď ľudia nebudú učiť?
Okay, so I need to finish up, I think, yeah. I've been called to finish. Oh,
Už mi povedali, že musím končiť.
okay, so my question is, you said everybody should teach in this movement,
Všetci by mali učiť v tomto
So
hnutí.
moved away from this idea that only leaders are required to teach.
Pohli sme sa od tejto myšlienky, že len vodcovia by mali vedieť učiť.
We've come full circle in saying everybody's required to teach.
Povedali sme, že každý by mal vedieť učiť.
Yes? What happens if someone says, I'm not teaching?
Čo keď niekto povie, že ja učiť nebudem?
You can't force them.
So we can't force them.
Nemôžeme ich nútiť.
Can you force one of the first 4 levels?
Môžeme nútiť niektorých z tých 4
So we can
prvých
force one of the
úrovní.
first 4 levels, which was leader of the movement, continental leader, local leader, and board member. We could force them.
Čiže kontinentálny vodca, starší vodca, lokálny vodca, tých by sme mohli nútiť.
Because it's a requirement of leadership.
Lebo od nich sa to vyžaduje.
But this is something that all members should be doing.
Ale toto je niečo, čo by mali robiť všetci členovia.
Because as Molly said,
Lebo ako Molly povedal,
we have 2 models that we're working with.
máme 2 modely, s ktorými pracujeme.
2 structures, if you like.
2 štruktúry.
A horizontal structure and a pyramid structure.
Horizontálna a
Or
pyramidová.
hierarchical.
Alebo hierarchická.
And we have to juggle the 2.
A s týmito 2 musíme vedieť žonglovať.
We're all priests.
Všetci sme kňazi.
And yet, even though we're all priests, organizationally, there is a hierarchy.
A aj organizačne medzi kňazmi je hierarchia.
Anyone else got any thoughts?
Má niekto ešte nejaké myšlienky?
James?
I just wanted a clarification of what teaching covers. Is it sharing, or is it in front of other people, or is it just baptismal vows? Because I'm a little fuzzy.
Okay, so people want to know what teaching means.
Čo znamená to učenie? Čo tým som myslel, to učenie?
So if I give a really silly example, if I baked a cake for you,
Dám taký hlúpy príklad. Keď ti upečiem nejakú tortu,
went to all the time and effort to find a recipe, got all the ingredients, read through it, and did an awful lot of work to create a cake that was pleasant.
a ja budem nasledovať všetky celý ten recept, postup, dám všetky ingrediencie, bude to dobrý koláč.
Is that the same as me going to Coles and buying one for you?
Je toto isté, ako keď pôjdem do
No.
obchodu a nejaký
So-
ti kúpim?
You get a cake either way,
Takže tak či tak dostaneš tortu.
so maybe that's not a good example,
Možno to nie je dobrý príklad,
but if we're a movement of prophecy,
ale ak sme hnutie proroctva,
which means we're created by prophecy and we believe and teach prophecy,
čo znamená, že sme utvorení proroctvom a veríme proroctvu a učíme ho,
or as Elder Jeff used to call us, students of prophecy,
starší Jeff nás zvykol nazývať študenti proroctva,
or priest, or the wise,
alebo tí mudrí kňazi.
teaching isn't sending somebody a spirit of prophecy quote or giving them the odd message.
Učenie to nie je, že pošleme niekomu citát ducha prorockého alebo mu dáme proste nejaké divné
Going to
posolstvo.
vow 12.
To je, že pôjdeme do slubu
Anything else, vow
12. Čo je 12. slub?
Josephine, yeah, sorry. Did I get your name wrong? Sorry. What's vow 12?
Aký je ten 12. slub?
The subject or the theme of vow 12?
O čom učí 12. slub?
Okay. Are you on vow 12? I don't know if you've done that. Maybe you haven't got there yet. I don't know if in your baptismal studies or not. Lynn? Oh, she cheated. Graham? You can cheat if you want. I don't know. It doesn't help to cheat. Okay, we'll get Elder Terry to help us. Elder Terry, what's vow 12? So the nature of humanity.
To je prirodzenosť ľudskosti.
We've got, say, 50 teachers in our movement.
Máme 50 učiteľov v našom hnutí, dajme tomu,
Who do baptismal classes.
ktorí robia
And you
krstné
get different
sluby.
qualities of teaching, of course.
A majú rôzne kvality učenia, samozrejme.
But to take somebody through that, just that one vow,
Ale aby sme niekoho zobrali cez tento jeden slub,
even if you do it badly,
aj keď to urobíme zle,
I would say that's what I'm referring to when I say teaching.
povedal by som, že o tomto hovorím, keď poviem
How many
učenie.
paragraphs is it? There's quite a few. There's 4 sections
Sú tam 4 odseky
and quite a few spirit prophecy quotes.
a dosť veľa citátov ducha prorockého.
So if a teacher went systematically through them, they'd cover a lot of territory.
Takže keď by systematicky cez toto prešiel s nimi ten učiteľ, tak pokryjú veľké teritorium.
Even if they weren't experienced.
Aj keď by boli neskúsení.
I think that's what teaching is.
Myslím si, že toto je učenie.
I don't think it's having a conversation about what's going on in the US election cycle.
Nemyslím si, že to je o tom viesť konverzáciu, čo sa deje vo voľbách v Amerike.
That's necessary.
Je to
But I don't think
potrebné,
it's what I'm referring to when I talk about teaching.
ale to nie je to, o čom hovorím, keď hovorím o učení.
Molly.
Some of us will not be ashamed of speaking in that, but all our vows, they live it out in their lives, and they win souls that way by the fruits.
What's the point you're making, Molly?
Ako sa snažíš povedať pointu,
Because
Molly?
if we require them to teach and they cannot teach,
So Molly's saying we require people to teach, but they can't teach.
yet they live out the message according to what it is.
Moises
But they
hovorí,
live
že
out the message.
oni žiadajú od ľudí, aby učili, ale oni učiť nevedia, ale žijú to posolstvo.
How can you live out what you don't understand?
Ako môžeš žiť to, čomu
They
nerozumieš?
understand the message. They know what's the vows and all that.
Oni
But they can't
rozumejú
just teach it literally,
posolstvu,
but
ale
they can live it
nevedia,
out in their lives experience.
nevedia ho.
So Molly says that they know the vows, but they can't teach the vows.
Že oni poznajú tie sľuby, ale nevedia ich učiť.
Do you think that there are some people in the movement who can't teach vows?
There are some that really very shy to teach.
So Molly says they're shy. I
Takže
asked, are they capable?
sú niektorí sú, ktorí sú veľmi hambliví, ale myslíš si, že sú schopní?
They refuse to teach, but in another way, they live out the teaching that we have.
Okay, does anybody have any more points?
Má
Before
niekto
we
nejaké
wrap up.
pointy ďalšie?
What about the real,
Josephine?
what about the real senior people who are kind of sickly or who are not capable and they're not teaching the message? How do you view them?
So we have elderly people in our movement.
V našom hnutí máme starších ľudí.
Is a 9-year-old child in this movement a priest?
Je 9-ročné dieťa v tomto hnutí kňazom?
Just yes or no?
Don't know.
You don't know? No? At what age did you graduate? 12. you're going through a
Čiže ty
biblical
myslíš,
model of 12.
že v 12 rokoch deti dozrejú, to je
Not
podľa
20.
biblického modelu, nie 20.
Because 12 were for boys, you know. And 20 was... Okay, anyone else?
Ešte niekto?
I thought everyone's a priest.
Ja som si myslel, že všetci sú kňazi.
And so we don't expect a young child, even at 12, to do baptismal classes as a teacher.
Neočakávame mladé dieťa, ani
So-
12-ročné, že bude dávať hodiny krstného sľubu.
Of course, there are people who are not well or who are feeble
Sú ľudia, ktorí sú slabí alebo necítia sa dobre,
physically
ale buď
and
fyzicky
mentally.
alebo mentálne.
Age is just one issue.
Vek je jedna vec.
There are people who have mental health challenges that would struggle.
Sú ľudia, ktorí majú problémy so psychickým zdravím a zápasia s tým.
So, if I gave the impression that we should capture everybody, even those who actually aren't either mentally well or who aren't physically well, and insist that they teach, then that wasn't the point that I was trying to make.
Ja som sa nesnažil povedať pointu, že by sme mali do toho zahrnúť všetkých, ktorí sa necítia psychicky a fyzicky dobre.
So I agree with you, Josephine.
Súhlasím s tebou, Josephine.
But if you're going to say that an elderly person is too old to teach, but they're still priests,
Keď starší človek je príliš
which is I think the argument
starý,
that
aby
you're making,
učil, myslím, že to je ten argument, ktorý ty hovoríš.
doesn't it go the other way around as well?
Nejde to aj naopak, opačnou stranou?
That even the children should therefore be considered as priests,
Tak potom by aj deti mali byť považované za kňazov,
even though they're not capable of teaching.
aj keď nie sú schopné učiť.
Okay, I want to summarize as we close.
Chcel by som to zhrnúť, ako to uzavrieme.
I've been coming over this subject over and over again
Ja sa k tejto téme stále vraciam,
to understand whether or not we are a radical movement,
aby sme rozumeli, či sme alebo nie sme radikálnym hnutím.
either just in name or in practice,
Či podľa mena alebo praxe.
because people have different ideas of what they imagine a radical feminist organization would look like.
Ľudia majú rôzne myšlienky o tom, čo si predstavujú, ako by mala vyzerať radikálna organizácia. Organizácia radikálneho feminizmu.
One of them is the selection process,
Jedno z nich je to, ako by sa mal vyberať vodcovia.
both past or legacy issues
Či už v
and
minulosti,
present.
alebo v tých takých problémoch zákonodárnych, ale aj v súčasnosti.
If we're not happy with the existing framework,
Ak nie sme,
existing practices,
ak nie sme šťastní s prítomným praxou, s tým rámcom,
I want people to know that there's a willingness, not only on my part, but if I can speak on behalf of other leaders, to change.
ja chcem, aby ste vedeli, že je ochota na mojej strane aj na strane ďalších vodcov veci zmeniť.
But if you change it,
Ale ak to zmeníte,